What's up, guys? It's me again, Christian Rodriguez, and today I wanted to talk about that there's a little bit of two sides of the spectrum, right, in human nature. And I always talk about, being willing to go lone wolf, right? Go after your mission. I always talk about you need to you need to be able to have the walking away power, basically, right? So if someone crosses a boundary, crosses a red line, you need to be able to walk away from them, right? And because if you don't do that, people are going to have power over you. Now, that's one side of the equation. But I also notice that there's also a lot of people who go on the other opposite extreme side of the equation, right? So there's one side of the equation that lets people, right? They keep toxic dynamics around, like shit people around in their lives. That's one side of the equation, right? That I always talk about. But there's another side of the equation that I need to address more often, and that's the other side, and that's the people who maybe they follow my advice, they listen, hey, I'm gonna cut off this person, that person, and then they say, oh, people are shit, people are bad, I'm not gonna keep people around, and they isolate themselves, right? They have no circle, they have no one around them, right? And I don't make these videos. When I say cut people off, I'm not telling you to cut people off and to, build a fortress around yourself and to isolate yourself, right? If you've read the 48 Laws of Power, which I always reference, there's a law, I think it's Law 18. He talks about don't build fortresses to isolate yourself because isolation is dangerous, right? And that's the side of the equation that I want to address because it's there's almost a fine line between it, right? Like you don't want to keep toxic shit people around, right? But you also don't want to isolate yourself because there's an extreme in both. And I think many people fall in the two extremes, right? But there's like a middle. There's a good middle where you should be focusing on, right? So, toxic dynamic, tolerating that, or being completely isolated, right? You got to get yourself right here in the middle. And usually, the middle is usually vetting people. That's really the middle behind it, right? And what do I mean by vetting people? I think I briefly talked about this, but what's their character like, right? How are they like under stress? If you tell them no, do they respect a no? Are they like, I get it, I'm a little disappointed, but I get it? Or do they punish you for it? After everything I've done for you, that's how you're gonna react to me? Like how do they respond when you tell them something like that, right? Do they secretly envy you, or are they happy for you when you win, right? You have to notice these things because that's what you need to vet, right? And I'm not telling you to be a negative, to isolate yourself. What I am telling you is to have the ability to notice these little details in people, right? And you got to be able to categorize them like, okay, this person supports my mission. This person's lifestyle supports mine. He likes going to the gym too. Maybe we don't do the same exact thing, but this is someone I want to be around because they're going to push me to go harder, right? On the gym, on my business, right? Versus if you have someone that's always getting drunk, right? Someone that wants to get drunk on the weekends, right? And they just like watching the football game. They like watching basketball all day, right? That's gonna conflict with what you're doing, right? And that's what I mean by it. And I'm not saying that person's a bad person, but I'm saying that clearly they have different priorities. And when people have different priorities, they're naturally gonna butt heads. And there's nothing malicious about it. It's just something that you need to be aware of, right? Because we're herd animals. We're creatures of habit, but we're also very influenced by the people around us. So you need to be very aware of um of the people around you, right? You need to be aware of um do they support you or do they conflict with you? There's either I've heard someone else say this. I've heard someone else say this that either someone works with you, they support you, or they hold you back. People fall into two categories, so you have to remember that. And that's the thing. Don't don't just think of the extremes. Think of what's in the middle of it, right? You have to be able to like this takes a little bit of understanding it, right? But you have to understand human nature. You have to understand what are the right people around you who will support you. And yes, this means you will have like a smaller circle, right? You will have you might be more selective. You might put people in different categories, right? Like your closest friends might be smaller, right? And then the people maybe like neutral people, associates, they could be around, right? But if they don't support you, then you're not going to give them all you're going to be more selective with the time you give them, right? And then if it's someone who's toxic, they don't even exist. They're ghost to you, right? That's what I mean by it, right? And it's a bit it's very simple, right? It's simple. It's not easy to do, but it's simple because if you've never done this before, you're probably it's going to be hard to see that from the people currently in your life, right? Or if you're isolated, you're going to be like all people are dicks, right? All people are bad. And that's not the case. So just get good at reading their reading people's character, reading their what they actually are all about, right? How are they like under stress, stuff like that. And you should be able to go through it properly. You should be able to keep these people around. Well, not keep these people around, but you should be able to find the right people to have in your tribe, right? And yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that before I just keep repeating myself. But I appreciate you guys for listening. I'm gonna keep creating more content. Subscribe and take care.